Welcome. I'm Jen Bozer, President and CEO of Iredell County Economic Development Corporation. I'd like to welcome you to our first annual industry leaders meeting. We're excited to have you here with us today, and we have a great program planned. In August of 2021, Iredell EDC launched the first annual business pulse survey to get a pulse from our local businesses on the needs, opportunities, and priorities at the forefront of them. Today, we will share the results of the survey with some context from the meetings that we had with industry over the past year. We picked today to host this event in celebration and recognition of National Manufacturing Day. Manufacturing Day is held on the first Friday of October with a purpose to raise awareness among students, parents, educators, and the general public about modern manufacturing and the rewarding careers available. To help us in celebrating this special day, we will hear from our distinguished keynote speaker, Ray Pittard, Executive Vice President for Supply Chain Engineering and Information Technologies with Trane Technologies, a major employer located in Iredell that is at the forefront of innovation and leveraging new technologies to transform sustainable operations globally. We'll look forward to Ray's remarks later in the program. I'd like to start by telling you a little bit about Iredell EDC. We promote economic growth and stability in our community by supporting the creation of new jobs and encouraging investment. We accomplish this through 6 key pillars: existing industry and retention, workforce and talent, business development, product development, marketing and communications, and collaboration and community development. We're a public-private partnership and are supported through funding from Iredell County, the city of Statesville, the town of Mooresville, and town of Troutman, and from investment from over 100 private investors and leaders throughout the community. On August 25th, we held our annual meeting highlighting accomplishments for the previous year. If you're more interested in learning about our work, an electronic copy of the annual report can be found on our website at iredelledc.com on our investor page. I'd like to take a moment to give a special thank you to our co-sponsor for this event, Mitchell Community College. We have a strong partnership with Mitchell in working together to help our industries train and recruit skilled workers for job opportunities in Iredell County. Mitchell Community College has several initiatives to achieve this, and I'd like to mention just a few. They're a participating partner in the North Carolina Manufacturing Institute, a collaborative between Rowan, Cabarrus, and Iredell counties, and industry to prepare students for careers in manufacturing. They are an essential partner with industry in delivering customized training to meet the work needs of Iredell County industries. And in 2020, they launched Apprenticeship Iredell, a work-based learning initiative to develop highly skilled workers in STEM-related fields. I'd like to recognize with us today Dr. Tim Brewer, President with Mitchell Community College, and Deb Lazenby, Director of Customized Training and Business Services. We really appreciate both of you for all of your efforts to partner with us. Existing industry and retention is one of our strategic pillars, and it is at the heart of the work that we do in economic development. During the past year, our announcements by existing industries represented over 1,000 jobs, over 400 million in capital investment, and they occupied 2.2 million in square footage across the county. As part of our comprehensive strategy, we have increased our engagement and connectivity through councils, forums, and in specific initiatives. Some highlights of our work include completing 156 existing industry engagements and assisting 24 small ombudsman clients, resulting in over 230 referrals. We hosted 4 industry leaders councils, bringing together site leads from existing industries with a focus on best practices, new trends, and networking. In July, we launched a workforce council, bringing together local industry with education and workforce partners. The gathering will strengthen conversations, help us share resources, and promote best practices. We published the first Business Resource Guide, featuring over 100 resources to help businesses looking to start, grow, and expand in Iredell County. And in response to the changes with NASCAR's next-gen car and the impacts of COVID to our motorsports industry, we developed a technical assistance program with NC State University's Industry Expansion Solutions, with funding from Iredell County and the town of Mooresville to help local companies diversify and expand into new markets. To build upon this work, we launched a business pulse survey, inviting Iredell businesses to share their insights and perceptions. This survey provided us with a pulse on our local business operations, the business climate, and the concerns at the forefront. And now I'd like to welcome Matthew Pierce, Director of Existing Industry and Retention, to provide an overview and the results from this year's Business Pulse survey.
Thank you, Jen. And good morning to all of you. This morning, I'd like to do four things. First, I'd like to talk about how the Business Pulse survey fits into the work of Iredell EDC. Then I'll provide an overview of who responded, types of industries, size of companies, and so forth. Then I'll dig into the results themselves. Finally, I'll wrap up by answering the question we get most from business leaders throughout the county. So let's begin by putting the Business Pulse survey into the context of Iredell EDC's work and what we learned through the survey itself. As Jen noted, existing industry, retention, and expansion is one of the key pillars of our organization. Central to supporting our local companies is identifying needs and trends within the community. We gather this information in two ways: one-on-one interviews and the Business Pulse survey. Throughout the year, Iredell EDC conducts in-depth interviews with business leaders, touring facilities, identifying trends, and addressing needs. Focused on companies within key sectors, these interviews allow us to go in-depth with business leaders, understanding dynamics within those key sectors, and looking for opportunities to provide support. Most frequently, these interviews result in connecting business leaders with public resource partners like Mitchell Community College or to one of our private sector investors. Occasionally, these interviews allow us to identify a broader need that then gets translated into an event or program. For example, the topic for our inaugural Workforce Council was a direct response to a request made by industries to learn more about how to recruit college students. Over the past year, we've engaged with 156 existing industries, and we've used those conversations to help interpret the results of the Business Pulse survey, which is our second tool for identifying business trends in the community. In contrast to one-on-one interviews, the survey provides the 10,000-foot view of our business community, a general sense of what's going on and what's changing over time. The survey itself has 4 sections. The first covers information about the location, type, and size of businesses. The second covers recent and anticipated changes in sales and employment. The third focuses on the business climate, and the fourth focuses on local utilities, services, and the professional climate. The survey was open during the month of August to businesses of all sizes and types throughout Iredell County. We distributed the survey through our social media channels, our newsletter, and via our community partners. I'd particularly like to thank 2 of our partners, the Downtown Statesville Development Corporation and Mooresville Downtown Commission. The staff and board of these organizations really pushed the survey, delivering a substantial number of responses. My thanks to Maren Tomlin and Kim Atkins for their help and support. Between our own outreach and that of our partners, we had 121 responses from across the county. Let's take a look at who responded to the survey. First, let's look at where the respondents were located. Most of the respondents, a little over 80%, had businesses located within the city of Statesville and the town of Mooresville, each of which provided about 40% of the responses. The remaining 20% or so of businesses were located either within the town of Troutman or out in the county. How large were the businesses that responded? Just about half of respondents had fewer than 10 employees, with another quarter of the businesses having between 10 and 49 employees. The remaining quarter is comprised of businesses with 50 or more employees. What kinds of businesses responded? We divided this up into 2 questions. What business sector is your company, and what industries does your company serve? We had at least one response from each of the 8 industry sectors that we provided, but 3 categories yielded the lion's share of responses: retail, accommodations, and food services at 32%, followed by manufacturing at 27%, and then professional services, including banks, insurance agencies, etc., at 21%. Together, these 3 industry sectors provided 80% of the total responses to the survey. Our downtown partners helped deliver the strong retail and professional services responses. Iredell EDC works closely with our manufacturing sector. 33 manufacturers responded to the survey, representing about 10% of all manufacturers within the community. The survey also allowed manufacturers in particular to specify which industries they served. We know from our engagement with manufacturers that many produce products for several sectors. Here we begin to get a real sense of the diversity of what Iredell County produces. We had the most respondents by manufacturers within automotive and motor vehicles, perhaps not surprising given the density of aftermarket and motorsports manufacturers in our community, as well as OEM manufacturers like NGK and Denso. We also had a number of respondents producing for the construction industry, food, beverage, and agriculture, and machinery and equipment. Turning to recent and anticipated changes in sales and employment, the outlook for Iredell County businesses is strong. 60% of businesses anticipate both employment and sales growth over the next year. Manufacturers have an even stronger outlook, with 78% of them anticipating sales growth and 79% anticipating growing their workforce. To be fair, this forecasted growth is a mix of recovery from the economic downturn, as well as new business in general. Some industries were hit particularly hard by the pandemic, including automotive manufacturing. Others flourished in the midst of the pandemic, like furniture, home goods, and construction materials. Notably, manufacturers did have a better year for employment growth than businesses in general in the past year. 69% of respondents anticipated either an expansion or relocation within the next year, with the majority of these representing an expansion in workforce rather than expansions in facilities. Now, those looking to relocate within the coming year all plan to move within Iredell County, indeed within the municipalities where they are currently located. Our next section focused on the local and national business climate, as well as the operational climate. Turning first to our local business climate, our community received high marks for quality of life and the overall business climate, a strong overall vote for doing business here in Iredell County. More than half of businesses were satisfied with the cost of doing business, some of which we can attribute to having the lowest county tax rate in the Charlotte region and the 15th lowest in the state. A quarter of businesses were concerned about the cost of doing business, but conversations with business leaders suggest that none of these costs are unique to our community. Instead, these concerns about cost of doing business are tied to problems arising from the pandemic. Which brings us to the national business climate. The ongoing impact of the COVID-19 pandemic was the chief concern of Iredell County businesses. In interviews, businesses connected a range of challenges back to the pandemic, including inflation, attracting and retaining employees, the cost of doing business, and supply chain disruptions. Making matters worse, leaders noted their frustration at the double bind of masking and vaccination. Masking and vaccination reduce the risk of employee sickness and operational shutdown, but requiring either risks alienating employees at a time when talent attraction and retention are a major concern. In some way or another, the pandemic touches nearly every aspect of doing business. Perhaps for this reason, businesses in general and manufacturers in particular responded similarly to concern about COVID-19, inflation, the global economy, and the national economy. Notably, they differed significantly in their concern about trade policies. 65% of businesses in general were concerned, compared to 85% of manufacturers. There are at least 2 reasons for this difference. Even before the pandemic, manufacturers in interviews noted that international tariffs had increased the costs of goods and raw materials. 2, companies importing or exporting goods themselves can more readily trace increased costs to their source, including with tariffs. Thus, while everybody is impacted by trade policies, the ability to identify those impacts and thus to be concerned about them differs. We also ask businesses about their operational matters. Though the pandemic was the chief concern among businesses, access to capital was not. More than half of businesses said this was not a concern. Readily available credit may be the result of readily available capital may be the result of strong credit availability within the market, company earnings, and federal programs like the Paycheck Protection Program. Disruption to the supply chain was the single biggest concern among 79% of all businesses and 97% of manufacturers. As noted earlier, disruptions to the supply chain began before the pandemic with tariffs on foreign goods. The pandemic disrupted international and domestic supply chains, first by causing an economic shutdown, then by spiking demand for certain goods and materials. The ongoing challenge of attracting and retaining workforce only exacerbates this problem. More than a few companies recently have shared that time to delivery from their suppliers has gone from days and weeks to months, and that with everything from wood staves to computer parts. Top operational concerns for at least half of Iredell County businesses included disruptions caused by technology, maintaining an existing customer base, and breaking into new markets, and cyberware and ransomware attacks. Two of these, disruptions caused by technology and maintaining existing customers, were chiefly a concern for smaller businesses. With regard to workforce, roughly 75% of all businesses and 90% of all manufacturers noted their concern about retaining current employees, attracting new employees, wage inflation, and the cost of employee benefits. Indeed, for every question about workforce, manufacturers registered more and stronger concern than business in general. With regard to attracting new employees, for example, 79% of businesses in general were concerned compared to 97% of manufacturers. The survey did ask businesses about their use of workforce partners and resources. Given the responses to our survey, we saw a stronger interest among Given the responses to our survey, we see an opportunity here to be able to promote our workforce partners further, including folks like Mitchell Community College and the North Carolina Works Career Centers. Finally, we asked businesses about utilities and public services. Several utilities received high marks from businesses, especially water, wastewater, and electricity. Telecommunications and area parks and recreation also received high marks. Local streets and highways drew a mixed response from businesses, though. Though 50% of businesses were satisfied with both categories, local streets and roads also garnered a strong dissatisfied response. For those of you who have to travel on River Road in Mooresville, commute into Charlotte, or navigate the ever-changing configuration of the I-77 I-40 interchange, this is probably no surprise. Within existing industry interviews, local traffic, especially in the southern end of the county, remains a persistent concern. Others have grown frustrated with the mere fact of construction, even when it doesn't slow them down. In recent years, the North Carolina Department of Transportation has experienced budgetary shortfalls, forcing them to delay countless road projects throughout the county. All of this suggests that traffic, construction, and road conditions may remain a challenge for some time. Two public services stand out for the strength of the responses they got. Public safety, including police, fire, and EMS, got the highest satisfaction ratings at 86%. Interviews with businesses support this rating, with leaders noting the professionalism and promptness of public safety departments and personnel. At the other end of the spectrum, zoning, permitting, and inspections received a significant number of very dissatisfied responses, a result which parallels responses about the local regulatory environment we saw earlier. Strong dissatisfaction about zoning, permitting, and inspections correlates to the size and location of businesses, though. Dissatisfaction with zoning and local regulatory environment was highest among smaller businesses operating in the downtowns, which is where you're dealing both with the older historic structures and additional layers of regulation. Before turning to the question we get asked most frequently by businesses during interviews, I'd like to offer a quick look at the key takeaways from the 2021 Business Pulse survey. First, the outlook for Iredell County businesses is strong, with 60% of businesses anticipating employment and sales growth over the next year. Iredell County has a diverse manufacturing base that serves several sectors, including automotive, construction, and food production. Diversity among our manufacturing base makes us a more economically resilient community. The ongoing impact of the COVID-19 pandemic is the chief concern of Iredell County businesses, virtually all of whom said they were concerned about the pandemic's ongoing impacts. In some way or another, the pandemic touches nearly every aspect of doing business. Workforce has become a concern for Iredell County businesses, especially retaining current employees, attracting new employees, wage inflation, and the cost of employee benefits. The same is true for manufacturers generally, only at a higher register. With regard to infrastructure and public service, our community has real areas of strength: water and wastewater, power and public safety, as well as opportunities to improve, including local roads, highways, as well as zoning, permitting, and inspection. I wanted to end today by addressing the question we get asked most during our one-on-one interviews: what do you do with all this information? The annual Business Pulse Survey is the beginning of a conversation with our community, our businesses, and our partners. That conversation continues as we tell our story, dive deeper, and follow up on opportunities. Telling the story. The Business Pulse Survey provides Iredell EDC and its partners with insights on the strengths of our community as a place to do business, as well as what makes it an attractive location for talent. In turn, those specific answers become part of our conversations during business attraction, marketing campaigns, and talent attraction. Deeper dive. The Business Pulse Survey highlights areas of focus for our communities to better serve existing industries and residents. For example, over the next several months, Iredell EDC and partners will be developing a guide to help businesses navigate zoning inspections and other aspects of setting up a new business location. As part of developing that guide, Iredell EDC staff will engage with respondents who noted their dissatisfaction with the local regulatory environment, incorporating their input into the guide while also providing feedback to city and county agencies. Following up on opportunities. The Business Pulse Survey connects Iredell EDC with businesses who may need support in the coming year. Nearly 1/3 of businesses surveyed noted plans to expand their operations within the coming year. Iredell EDC has already engaged 100% of these businesses, offering support for their expansions through technical assistance and referrals to resource partners. So in a nutshell, that is what we do with all this information. The print version of the survey will be available online at iredelledc.com, and all of you who are joined with us or here with us today will receive the press release with a link to that location. With that, I'd like to thank you all for your presence with us here today. A special thanks to those who took or promoted the survey. With that, I'd like to open the floor to any questions you might have before we turn the floor over to Ray.
Yes, Matthew, we have a question. What are some of your key takeaways? And another question, just so we can keep going through, what are some things that you would have done differently that you didn't do?
So one of the challenges of the first time you do a survey like this, you're benchmarking, and it raises all kinds of questions about what would have come previously to this. I think so. One of the things that we didn't include in this, and I think for a good reason, right? It would have made it too long. It would have been nice to have been able to see how things shaped up last year, or to lay this year's responses against last year's information. We know that some of what we're seeing in terms of the growth is recovery, and some of it's new business. So I'd have liked to have seen the two of those laid side by side.
Thank you, Matthew. That was great presentation, and thank you all for staying engaged and for all that participated in the survey and throughout the visits throughout the year. The work that we do with our existing industries is very important. It's really helpful to get a pulse on the business community so that we really understand the strengths and needs of our local businesses. This was our first annual survey. The first time we've done it. Many communities do this all over the country. It was an opportunity for us to take a pulse. This is also our first annual industry leaders event. And so we will be benchmarking, as Matthew said, next year to compare the results. And we'll also look at, hopefully COVID is going away. We all are crossing our fingers for that. But I think we will look at current trends and issues that impact the local landscape. And so some of the questions next year might incorporate those versus ones that we had this year. So with that, thank you, Matthew, for all the work you do. I want to thank my team for all the work they do. We're all integrated in some way with existing industry, and it's important to us. So now I have the pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker with us. Ray Pittard is the EVP, Executive Vice President of Supply Chain, Engineering, and Information Technologies for Trane Technologies. Ray is the Executive Vice President. I just said that. In this role, Ray provides leadership to manufacturing and procurement, information technology, engineering, and critical elements of the company's operating system. He will also continue to lead the roadmap for enterprise excellence to Trane's path to becoming a world-class lean organization while overseeing ongoing transformation initiatives. Most recently, Ray served as transformation office leader, where he led efforts to transform Trane Technologies into an efficient, more customer-focused company that unlocks value for customers and shareholders. Previously, Ray served as the president of Thermo King business in North America and EMEA. He has held leadership positions in several other businesses, including a role in Europe, leading the former climate controlled technologies European businesses. And so we're just so thrilled to have Ray with us today. So I'd like to welcome Ray.
Good morning, Jen. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me? Oh.
And
I think,
Ray, we don't hear you just yet. So give us 1 minute.
Oh, there we go.
We see you on the screen. Still don't hear you just yet.
Perfect. Okay. So Patty can hear me. So I know we can.
I think you got something's with the audio.
They say they hear.
What? They hear. Okay.
Everybody can hear?
They hear you.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, listen, thank you, Jen. I really appreciate that kind introduction. I think, it's really exciting today to be with the Iredell Economic Development Group. And I really want to thank you for all the hard work that you do. Iredell County is a great place, and I think it's your efforts and people in the community that really make it special. And it's just a pleasure to be here with everyone this morning. I want to get started this morning to share a little bit that, as Jen introduced me, I've been with the same company for 31 years. And as you heard the introduction, I've had just an incredible, diverse and meaningful career with this company. And one of the reasons is just there's been so many opportunities for personal growth and development, and I'm really grateful for that. And the location has had a lot to do with it, and I'll talk about that later. This morning, I'm going to share a little bit of background around Trane Technologies, our purpose and our strategy, and economic and business trends that affect us, how we've piloted and had to manage through this difficult pandemic, and our plans for the future to grow, and our role here in the area. And then we'll take your questions and glad to share with it. So as we get started, we'll jump in, and if you would go to the first slide around the strategic brand. Thank you. So many of you may not know our company. Let me tell you a little bit about Trane Technologies. In March 2020, we spun off from Ingersoll Rand to become a pure play climate control company, as we would call it. And you may recall Ingersoll Rand has been here for many, many years. The industrial piece became part of new Ingersoll Rand, and we created Trane Technologies, which was purely focused in the areas that I'll talk about. Our North American headquarters is in Davidson, North Carolina, and we have our campus that we share with Ingersoll Rand. And the buildings themselves are actually in Iredell County. So, we're really proud. Every day I sit in my office in Iredell County, and we're very proud to be a part of this location. As a global climate innovator, Trane Technologies really focuses to solve sustainability challenges through innovation in heating and cooling industries. And that sounds like a lot, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what that means in a moment. Our strategic brands that you may have heard of where they're more visible in the market would be Trane and Thermo King. And our portfolio of products and services that we bring are around efficiency and sustainable climate solutions for buildings, for homes, and for transportation. Two of our strategic brands have been around for a really long time. If you think about Trane, it goes all the way back to 1913, where Trane is focused on really creating and optimizing indoor environments with a broad portfolio of energy efficient heating, ventilating, and air conditioning systems, HVAC, as you probably would know it, building and contracting services, parts and support, and advanced controls. On the commercial side of HVAC, we create innovative solutions that make high-performance buildings reliable and safe, as well as healthy, comfortable, and efficient. That could be all kinds of applications in buildings, everything from a hospital to an office building to a data center to an industrial space. And we lead this in a way where we're really focusing on indoor environmental quality. IEQ is maybe the term that's become popular these days, to improve the health and safety of these indoor spaces. This has never been more crucial than you could imagine in the past 2 years with the pandemic. It's not just about having a cool, comfortable environment. It's also really creating a healthy and safe environment in a good, efficient way. For the residential side, we provide heating, cooling, controls, and home automation for your homes and for our homes. And we have a complete portfolio of innovative parts, products, equipment, and performances that we can provide to really create that great environment in our homes. And I think with a lot of people working at home these days, that's become even more important, that we have a good environment for our families. And then on the transport side, Thermo King is the brand that you may know, was founded in 1938 and continues to shape the transport temperature control market by providing trusted solutions for trucks, where we refrigerate trucks, trailers for large refrigeration, transit buses for air conditioning, marine containers for refrigeration, and rail air conditioning. And we've been heavily involved in this to create a safe transport, specifically recently for the COVID vaccines. We have a unique technology that goes to ultra low temperature that allows us to be able to transport those vaccines. And we work closely with companies, great healthcare companies like Novant, for example, in our region, to help get those vaccines out to the people that need them. So it's been something we've been really proud to play a part in to try to help get people vaccinated. We also play in a lot of other industries. And I think if you think about the businesses, in our commercial space, we support and serve institutional segments, automotive, pharmaceutical, healthcare, food distribution and manufacturing, recreation and hospitality, anywhere that you can think about creating a healthy and efficient space, whether it's in a building, a home, or even in a vehicle. So with that, it's exciting that we have a chance to talk a little bit about our strategy today. We have over 37,000 people in our company around the world. And as I talk a little bit now about the strategy of the company, keep in perspective that we're a global company, and the brands that you see here are represented around the world by a lot of great people in all the continents of the world. If you go to the next slide, please, Jim. To start with, Trane Technologies' overarching strategy is to serve attractive end markets driven by global megatrends. There's no reason you should try to fight the megatrends. We want to take advantage of these megatrends. And let's talk a little bit about those. Urbanization, when you think about years ago, there were a lot of people in the countryside, but today people are moving to urban environments, and the demographics are really shifting. And this is really reshaping our communities. We see that clearly here in Iredell County. If you go back when I started with the company 31 years ago, a lot of farmland in the area. Today, there's headquarters of companies and businesses, and there's the city of Charlotte has completely changed from where it was. This urbanization is taking place on a massive scale around the world. And resources that go with this are ever more constrained than they've ever been. It doesn't take much to read the newspapers to see this, whether it's energy, whether it's food, whether it's land, whether it's water. Resource constraints are becoming more and more prevalent. So we have to do a better job of conserving and using our resources wisely. This is really important in our industry in particular, and I'll talk about that later. Climate change is also really accelerating. I think we all see the effects of that when we look at the temperature outside. You know, I was in Kansas City this past week. It was 91 degrees late September. And that's just remarkable how hot things are today. And we see it in our storms and a lot of other effects that are really disrupting the way that we live and changing the world for definitely and creating more difficult situations for many, many people. As our world contends with these challenges, it feels like our future has never been more uncertain. But all of this, we see an opportunity to do what's right and create a better planet. One of the things that we really think about is we can take this problem head on, and we can do our job to try to be innovative and help play a major role in trying to help solve some of these challenges. Constantly changing landscape of urbanization, resource constraints, and climate change, really is our call to lead. We use that with our employees and our company to really try to get people to think bigger, act bolder, and have a bias for action. It's not just to improve our own performance, but really about influencing global change. That's why our purpose, as we would define it and talk with all of our people, is to boldly challenge what's possible for a sustainable world. And I'll give you some specifics of what that means, but it's really a purpose that gives people passion in our company to do more than just make a paycheck. Aligning our strategies around something that creates a tailwind, taking advantage of these negative trends is where our people can really make a difference for our customers in the world and feel a sense of connection. This is particularly important with the younger generation, as you can imagine, and it's so important. If you go to the next slide, we'll talk about sustainability. One of the areas that we need to do to make sure that we were doing is really to try to make sure that sustainability isn't just a buzzword. It's got to be core to our business strategy, embedded in everything we do. You hear the term sustainability a lot, and we really wanted to make sure that this was really at the heart of our company. The future of manufacturing is also based in sustainability. We really take this to heart and took it to heart many years ago. Back in 2020, we created sustainability targets, and we met them fully a year early. It was interesting when we set those targets, we didn't know how to achieve them, and these targets were around helping to reduce the effects of the environment from our products, helping to do a better job in our own plants, and ultimately help to create a more diverse and inclusive company and have an effect and impact on the communities that we're in. We continue to bring this sustainability purpose to life in 2030 as we make our second set of major sustainability commitments. And these commitments, they encompass the environmental and social impacts of our operations, products, services, and also our culture. We often say that one company can change an industry, and an industry can change the world. And we truly believe this. There's some statistics I'll talk about in a moment that will just really kind of give a perspective on that. When we boldly come together around a cause, it's amazing what our people can do. We're very, very proud of what our people can do. And I'm sure as you would be of all of your people. But when you get people focused on a purpose, not just to get a paycheck, and you show them how they connect individually to those strategies and purpose, it's just remarkable what people can do. So with these commitments to do the right thing for the world, we really set the pace for positive change in our global industries. We've seen a lot of our competitors follow, challenging us to address global issues with our leadership and our expertise, really trying to be the thought leaders in the space that we're in, and then really creating a purpose and connection that motivates and engages our people towards something more meaningful and important, more than a paycheck, as I said earlier. So as meeting our 2030 commitments means a better world for my 2-year-old grandson, I happen to be today, I'm sitting in my daughter's house in Kansas City again, where her and her husband and our grandson live. And I will tell you, when you have a grandson, when you enter the grandparent stage of your life, which I just did, I will tell you, it really puts some of this commitment around sustainability and making the world better into a very personal effect. I know I want my grandson to have a better world than exists today, and I want to make sure that I'm doing my part and our company is doing our part to help make that happen. As we go forward, I think this really is motivating, but our first commitment that we talk about is on the left. It's called the Gigaton Challenge. And it's to reduce 1 gigaton or 1 billion metric tons of carbon emissions from our customers' footprint by 2030. It's hard to get your head around what a gigaton is. I didn't even know what that term was when our team started talking about it. But to give you a perspective, it's a reduction that would equate to 2% of the world's annual carbon emissions, which is essentially the combined annual emissions of Italy, France, and the UK put together for a year. So if you think about that, that's really remarkable what we can do just as one company, and we're just one company. We're meeting this commitment by innovating clean technologies, advancing system-level energy efficiency, reducing global loss of food, and transporting medicines to help improve life, and really transitioning ultimately as well to the next generation refrigerants, which we use across all of our products. As of 2020, we reduced 7.7 million metric tons of CO2 emission equivalent from our customer carbon footprint. So a long ways from our billion metric ton reduction challenge. But I'm very confident, just like 2020, where we were able to do it, our teams will do the same again. It's amazing that we learned that Trane Technologies also is the first HVAC climate company to have our greenhouse gas emissions reduction targets verified by the Science Based Targets Initiative. This is actually really important because a lot of people talk about sustainability. We wanted to be more scientific about it. There's actually an organization that actually tracks to assure that the targets are science-based and that people are accountable to their commitments and companies are accountable to those commitments. We're also only one of 47 companies that has actually done this twice. We've actually verified it twice. We did it for our 2020 targets, and we did it again for our 2030 targets. The second one is about leading by example. And what this means is really about reimagining our supply chain and our operations to have a restorative impact on the environment. We're meeting this commitment by working to achieve carbon neutral operations, zero waste to landfills, net positive water usage at our sites, and absolute energy reduction of 10%, even as we grow. In 2020, we decreased our water usage on water-stressed regions by 23% compared to the prior year. We also made 39% of our own electricity. We made 39% of our own electricity demand through renewable energy sources. And as you think about this, we're just getting started. It becomes really an important part to try to get to a carbon neutral supply chain and operation. And then the third commitment is around opportunity for all, which really is about uplifting culture and creating ways that we give back to communities such as Iredell County through an inclusive approach where we pursue our diverse and gender parity within our leadership roles. We try to get a better diverse and inclusive culture, and we really focus on education and career development of our employees and into the communities. In 2020, women in our company held 22% of leadership positions of the company, and we reached nearly $11 million in philanthropic giving, including donations from our company foundation to and in-kind giving from others and employee fundraising. And certainly, we have a long ways to go, particularly in our work in these areas, but we remain committed. It's always exciting when you don't necessarily know how you're going to get there, but you have a passion and commitment to actually make sure you do get there. And I have no doubt that we will do so. A lot of great people working on this. If you go to the next slide, let's talk about sustainable futures. In May, we announced our refreshed corporate citizenship strategy called Sustainable Futures, which aims to educate underrepresented students and set them on pathways to green and science, technology, and engineering and math, or STEM as it's called, careers. We know there's a tremendous gap in STEM fields with women and people of color really underrepresented in these areas. And we're committed to closing that gap because it's better for everyone. Diverse talent makes our industry stronger, and more importantly, our world becomes more equitable when all people have access to rewarding, well-paid careers. We've committed $100 million and 500,000 employee volunteer hours to Sustainable Futures efforts between now and 2030, and including healthy classroom settings and promoting skill building for environmental careers. A lot of these efforts that I'm talking about happen right here in Iredell County and in the greater Charlotte area. Our partnerships with several local nonprofit organizations are helping young people realize that a sustainable, rewarding future is within reach. We work with organizations probably the same as many of you do with the Urban League, Discovery Place, DigiBridge, Helps Education Fund, and the Ada Jenkins Center in Davidson, which I had the honor to actually be a part of that board for a number of years. In July, Trane Technologies and the Carolina Panthers announced a new competition for high school students in North and South Carolina to use creative and STEM skills to reimagine and design sustainable sports stadiums stadium for the future. And the winner will receive a $5,000 and see their stadium design showcased at a Panther home game during the season. Programs like this and all of our work to uplift the community help all of us to, feel a sense of purpose and also at the same time inspire the next generation, their curiosity with STEM, creating sustainability careers, and really just help make our community better. This is of utmost importance because we know that a healthy and sustainable planet depends on the talent and innovation that we create today and in the future. We go to the next slide, please. Let's talk a little bit about economic growth and the global pandemic, something that I think we're all challenged with at the moment. With sustainability at our core, we're helping the world while we also are driving our own growth, and we're excited about that. And there is a business purpose behind everything that we're trying to do. Since the start of Trane Technologies back March of 2020, we've grown at a strong rate compared to our competitors. Through our people's determination and commitment and through innovation and through our efforts to create profitability. The profitability that we generate enables us then to reinvest in our people and in innovation. We call it the flywheel, which is really just a perpetual cycle of growth, profitability, and reinvestment. In 2020 through the first half of 2021, we've achieved strong outcomes despite some ongoing challenges. Clearly, and I know it firsthand because of my role, supply chain pressures triggered by the global pandemic have challenged us to keep pace with increased demand for our products and services across many industries. We're really proud of our team in all areas, particularly the groups that are directly dealing with this in procurement, supply chain, engineering, manufacturing, and our commercial teams who have gone above and beyond to really mitigate any impacts and really protect our customers. It hasn't been easy, and I will tell you, it's a daily fight, but certainly something we will get through, and we do see this as something that eventually does get resolved. We aren't the only ones dealing with this, though. I'm sure all of you are dealing with it, and many of our peers and in the industry are also faced with extraordinary material and freight issues, ranging from clogged supply chains, hyperinflation in many situations, and shortages that affect our plants and our ability to supply our customers. And we expect this to continue for the future. It isn't going to go away in the immediate term. The pandemic has also affected our global labor markets. And like many other companies, we're really doing everything we can to not only preserve and protect our people and keep our people safe, but also keep them and retain them. And the market, as you all know, is very, very hot right now for recruiting. And so, we have to make sure that we're not only helping our people, but we have to give back and help them with protection and health for their family and their wellness so that they can take care of their families as well. We offer several resources to help to deal with this, help people navigate life and work, and really help people deal with the situation we're all faced with, ranging from child care and family support, mental and physical health resources, and support for our people to get vaccinated. Well, the pandemic tested us in a lot of ways. It really gave us an opportunity to kind of even rise to the challenge in a new way. I mentioned earlier about IEQ, or indoor environmental quality. We have a lot of experience in this for many decades, but it really came to light through the pandemic, and trying to create a healthy and safe indoor space really was critical for many businesses and for many environments. We created what we call the WellSphere initiative, which is really a holistic and comprehensive approach to building wellness that includes doing detailed assessments and reviews of our customers' locations, taking and applying technology to mitigate the risk that's in the air quality and trying to help them to create the best air quality possible, and then really how they can control and maintain that over time, working with our company. This has been really important. We all want our children to go to schools that are safe. We want to go to stores. We want to go to restaurants. We want to go to the places where the environment is good. And the WellSphere effort has really made a big impact on that. As we also launched our Center for Healthy and Efficient Spaces, bringing together some of the worldwide experts across the industry and some new technologies to really accelerate innovation and advocacy for safer, healthier, more efficient homes, buildings, and transportation. Bringing together thought leadership has been a really important part of the Center for Healthy and Efficient Space, and something that we're quite proud of. You don't have to invent every idea. We can leverage the great ideas of many people, but if we can bring that together in an effective way and then help customers to take advantage of it, it can be a very powerful thing. We continue to also provide end-to-end cold chain transport storage for safe delivery of food, vaccines, and medicines. We make a product called the Super Freezer, which is an ultra low temperature freezer you see the picture of on the left there. actually in front of a medical center, which I think is actually a Novant center. And this is actually where the COVID-19 vaccines, many of them were stored because of the requirement for the ultra low temperatures that are between 70 and 80 degrees negative Fahrenheit. So ultra cold. And by doing that, we've been able to help play a key role in helping people to get vaccinated, as I mentioned earlier. Most recently, we announced an acquisition of Farrar Scientific that expands our cold chain capabilities into the ultra low space for temperature control in biopharmaceuticals and other life science businesses. Go to the next slide. Let's talk about our people and where we boldly go. Over the past 2 years, we've really been honored with some external recognition, which you can read about on our website, a lot of great things. But more importantly than this external recognition, we're interested in the recognition we get from our own people. How do our people feel about the company and being a part of our company? Many of them proudly participated in the co-creation of our company's new leadership principles, our values, and our culture strategy. And we really that are really excited about the diversity and inclusive strategies that we've implemented. They're also engaged in helping us to create open innovation ideas around a concept we call Operation Possible. With the purpose that I talked about, we're trying to create a way for our employees to bring forward some of the biggest absurdities or challenges in the world, and then using open innovation across our company to try to help solve some of the world's major sustainability challenges. These are like targeted areas that are really significant, that we have a lot of people putting their ideas in. So it's been a great way to engage our teams, and we've seen some great outcomes from that. Their enthusiasm has really been amazing. One of the things we were concerned about was in 2020 with all the pandemic, that our employee engagement scores would go. We do a yearly survey. We actually saw top tier performance in our 2020 survey, and I think it has a lot to do with the engagement of our people and how they feel about the company. It was also a great chance for us to see the amount of pride, energy, and optimism that our teams have as being part of the company. So let's go to the forward looking a little bit though. When we think about where we want to go next, we see unlimited possibilities and a bright future. We continue to innovate and drive efficiency to expand growth, and we'll also continue to attract, develop, and retain talented people around the world and a bright future. We also continue to focus on why it's so important to be in Iredell County. It's getting more challenging every day, so we have to be contemporary around our thinking about how we motivate our people and how we engage our people. We have a future of work plan that we're working that really is focused on how we change the way people do work in our company. With the pandemic, of course, many of us have worked from home, and we've learned that flexibility, work-life balance, and the ability to think differently about how we get work done is a really important part of the future. And we've been working diligently on that. We keep asking ourselves, what do we do to offer our workforce of the future something that keeps them excited about our company? And a lot of companies, of course, we know where everybody's asking this question, but we have to strive to create something really special for our employees, just like each company on the call does today. Iredell County is already a fabulous place to live and work. And the more we can create a better community, the more people will be attracted to come here. And the more talent that comes here, the better for all of us, in the community and in our companies. Our people consistently tell us they're excited about the future and how we're impacting the world. We spent some time to try to create an employee value proposition to really try to make sure that people would have a good answer as to why they should come work at Trane Technologies and why they should stay at Trane Technologies over time. Really something that's a very holistic view that we've taken. It's what makes we believe it makes us as an employer of choice different from our competitors. And it's really a rally cry that we use where we say we boldly go. We want our people to make the world a better place, and they know that they can do that here. We go to the last slide, please. So in conclusion, I go back to the fact that I started 31 years ago for this company. And I used to drive up from South Charlotte when I first started with the company. I was based down in the South Park area. We had a factory on the campus here. That was all that was here. And I'd drive through the farmlands and look at all the flowers on the interstate as I was driving up all the poppies. And there was a little motel that was on exit 28 on I-77 that I'd pass. And that was about all there was. There wasn't too much else, some farmland and a few homes here and there. But the neighborhoods weren't built, and there really wasn't a lot of industry. But today, look at it now. It's different. It's really amazing what's happened. You've got company headquarters. You've got tremendous green space. You've got beautiful neighborhoods around. And I have to say, the quality of life in Iredell County is really spectacular. We moved our corporate headquarters from New Jersey, from outside of New York, specifically because we saw such a great environment for our people, and we believe that we could really attract and retain great talent because the quality of life in the area is really something special. We believe in a better tomorrow means everyone can enjoy a safe, comfortable, and sustainable space, and we think we can start that right here in Iredell County as well. And we're committed to a better future. I really want to thank you today for allowing me to share a little bit about our company, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. So Jen, I'll turn it back over to you for some Q&A.
Thanks, Ray, so much for your comments. And gosh, you covered a lot on all of my questions, and I created so many more questions. But I think I just want to make a few comments, and then we'll see if anyone from the audience wants to put some questions in the chat, please feel free to do so. I just want to reinforce some of your comments. First of all, sustainability. It has become a real driver for business location in terms of also thinking about what is Iredell County, what are our municipalities doing to ensure that they can meet those goals that they've set, or goals that other companies have set for them to be a partner. So that's just something that I think isn't always front and center, but it's definitely something that can be a factor when companies are making a decision for location. I also want to just speak to your comments on talent, especially as every single company we have a conversation with right now is facing workforce challenges in some way, shape, or form. But I strongly believe that allowing people to have aligning people and their passion with what the company does, so that they're committed to the goals of the organization, the culture of the organization, and really getting their perspective on what you mentioned, engagement with your people is so important. So it's not just about how much you pay them. It's not just the benefits that you give them. It's that engagement with them that really can be a game changer in terms of them choosing to stay and being part of a company. The last comment I want to make, and I'd like to get your perspective because you're in this business. We've seen a big shift with manufacturing wanting to co-locate with distribution, and more specifically, trending has been cold storage. Cold storage facilities. They're getting, it seems like more of them are popping up because of the supply chain disruptions. And so I would love to hear your thoughts on how that has grown. Obviously that is your business, but how that has grown as a business focus, and what you're seeing on the landscape. I hear about it, but I would love to hear from you. Has that been a significant game changer or trend in the last 2 years? And do you see that going forward?
Thanks, Jen. I think absolutely it does. There's if you think about people's lifestyles and what drives it, the last mile delivery has become more and more important, especially with the pandemic. We all have groceries brought to our house and do home delivery. I think people are much more inclined to that. And as a consequence, there's been a huge increase in the need for cold storage because people are trying to move food into the communities and then from there directly into people's homes. It's changed a little bit of the dynamic, and as a result, there's been a very large amount of cold storage requirement. But it's broader than the cold storage. I think the cold storage piece is very large, and where you have people, you need more cold storage. But there's also the ability to have transportation of products. So we've seen last mile refrigeration, vans that bring food or medicines around has increased dramatically. We've seen great opportunity in this space. We work on the cold storage side with the Trane side in the facilities, and we work on the distribution, the truck side that moves to and from those centers with the Thermo King side. And we've seen growth in both of those. And we believe that, this last mile delivery piece, which is really driving this, will continue to grow at a very large rate as people now are much more comfortable bringing food, having food delivered to their homes. I think there's some other dynamics too that you can think about. We see a lot of business in the data center space, for example, for cooling, because there's a lot more people that are working from home. There's a lot more video conferences like this that are taking place. That drives demand. And, I think just as we see how work is done going forward, things are different. And as a consequence, I think there's great opportunities that come from that. And Iredell County, with such a great place to be, we have an opportunity to, encourage people to come. And when people come, then you get all the things that go with that, and as the groups of populations get bigger, for sure.
Thanks for that, Ray. I have one. I don't see any questions in the chat, but I do have one question related to National Manufacturing Day, since we're celebrating that today. Obviously the purpose of Manufacturing Day is to raise awareness among students, parents, educators, and the general public about modern manufacturing, the rewarding careers available. And you spoke to that some, but we have a big focus in Iredell County, working together in partnership with Mitchell and the Workforce Board and our school systems to come together to market what we're doing. But what would you suggest are key things that we as a community can be doing, both from an industry standpoint and as the public sector?
Well, I think, let me start with manufacturing is a great place to be. I mean, it's a great career path for people. I think as we look at the supply chain challenges we're dealing with right now, people are beginning to understand that in the region, for the region, manufacturing becomes more and more important than it ever has. Today logistics are so difficult that if you have a supply chain that comes from overseas or somewhere far away, it's just, there's a multiplier effect on the complexity and the cost that goes with that. So by having local manufacturing or in-region manufacturing, the supply chains are much more resilient. I think the second thing is, from a career perspective, STEM opportunities, as we help our communities with kids getting, kind of focused on STEM. There's a shortage of people who have that kind of background, that have science, technology, engineering, and math backgrounds. And the more we can encourage that, the better. It's a great career path. I was an engineer by degree and by training. And, I just look at the ability to problem solve and the things that I learned and the opportunities that opened up for me. We have to try to focus to try to do that in our communities by creating programs and support schools and organizations to do that. I think the other thing from an Iredell County specific perspective is, I think continuing, as we get more companies and we continue to support the community, it makes it a more attractive place for people to live, which then makes it easier for people to move headquarters and manufacturing into the area. And I think the more that we can do that, the better. There's, a lot of our factories that are quite old are in very small rural communities around the world. And sometimes it can be very difficult to attract talent. But in a place like Iredell County, where you have such a great place to live, you have a big city nearby with Charlotte and so on. We need to take advantage of that, and we need to try to create a dynamic where we can encourage companies to come to the area. And I think we do that, and I think the organization Jen, you lead, does that for sure. But there's even more opportunity in front of us. So it's an exciting day. Manufacturing is very exciting. I think it's great to make things, and I think when you put your hands on something that's made by a team, it's you look at it and you go, it's something that we create a lot of value and can be great for all companies. So I'm excited about the celebration of Manufacturing Day.
Thank you, Ray. I agree with you. I think one of the first things I did when I came here just over 2 years ago was a tour of our existing industry with my colleague Matthew. And just amazing how many things are made and how manufacturing has really changed. And I think we got to get that story out about the impact of each piece that's made here in Iredell County and how that supports the production of cars or machines or whatever it may be. It's I always say made in Iredell County. It's how it's made community. But anyway, we really appreciate you being with us today. Thank you. Thank you for all that you do. I know that this was something that you had to schedule for, so we really appreciate you being with us. I'd also like to thank our attendees for being with us today. Thank you again to our partner, Mitchell Community College, for their support. We certainly hope that at some point we'll be able to do this in person and be together. Quickly, I'd like to mention two upcoming things that we have for our existing industries that joined us. We'll be hosting our next Industry Leaders Council on October 12th. And we recently launched a workforce council, really to focus in an industry-led workforce council, bringing together the HR folks within our community to talk about different issues. And we're going to be talking about the mandates related to the vaccine that have been announced and how to manage through that, and some other things to retain talent and just best practices. So if you're interested in staying connected with Iredell EDC and what we have going on, or you want to share stuff with us, certainly sign up for our newsletter at our About Us page on our website. And thank you again for being with us. We hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.